Hello and welcome back to the Raspberry Podcast. Today I am joined by Rick Young. Rick is someone that I've wanted to have on the podcast for as long as I've been doing it. Very simply, he is one of the original UK Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. The first three black belts, UK bred black belts given by Mauricio Gomez was Jude Samuels, Mark Walder and Rick Young. I've had Jude on the podcast, I've had Mark on the podcast, and now I've got Rick on the podcast. So I've completed the set there. Not only is he, part of UK Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu history, but he's also just an incredible martial artist all round. He's proficient and accomplished in so many other arts. It was fantastic to talk to him, get the opportunity whilst I was up in Scotland traveling around to sit down and have a chat. Unfortunately, not for as long as I would have liked to. I managed to catch him in between classes. We are going to have to do a second part of this, as you'll see why. It just wasn't long enough for all of the experience, all the stories and all the information that Rick has inside of his head. But a real honor and a real privilege to sit down and be able to chat to him. I really enjoyed it and I hope you guys enjoyed listening. Check it out.
Thank you.
So firstly, Rick, thank you very much for agreeing to do this. I've been looking forward to sitting down and speaking with you. Obviously, I've known of you as long as I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've nailed Jude, I've nailed Mark. You're the other person in that lineup of those first three black belts from Roger or from Mauricio?
Mauricio,
right? Yeah.
Mauricio, yeah.
So I'm really, really glad to sit down and chat to you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's really nice. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to interview me and give me the chance.
The pleasure is mine.
Share some thoughts. Yeah,
the pleasure is all mine. So what we'll do, because we went to we went and got a little bit of food before this. Absolutely. I always say to guests, whenever I see them beforehand and we'll chat a little bit, I say, don't say too much, because they'll get just I have the privilege of talking to such interesting people, such as yourself, and every single time I can't help but chat with them, and then I realize, oh God, I'm getting great content that I'm not getting on the podcast. And I said this to you in the cafe, and then you go, oh yeah, it was like this one time that I interviewed Rickson. I was like, stop right there, Rick. I don't want to hear this story. I want to hear it in front of the mic. So carry on with that story.
Well, it was just. I'd met Rickson, and I never knew that I met Rickson in '89. This is like over 30 years ago, wow. Right? So the first time that I really got introduced to Gracies Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was in '89, and that was July '89, and that was when a friend of mine, someone I knew, he was taking privates from Hoist. We are now known as Hoist. At the time, I didn't know any of the brothers. So
you didn't know who they were?
I didn't. I think there'd been an article come out in Black Belt about these brothers. We had issued this challenge, obviously the Gracie challenge, about they could be anybody, blah, blah, blah. So I went to the house and I got a private with Hoist at the time, and then these guys were walking around, and now I know it was Horian, Hoyler, and Rickson.
Wow!
So they hadn't opened the academy yet.
This was in Irvine.
This was, I think it was in Torrance.
Okay, yeah,
Torrance.
Yeah,
it was South LA, yeah, and Torrance, and so I didn't know who any of them were.
Imagine how much it would cost you to get those people in a room right now.
Crazy, yeah. It's just the way things have changed is just crazy. So back then, nobody had really heard of them, and I trained a little bit with Hoist. And then later on, I was training with Paul Vunak, and Paul Vunak was one of the first people to train under the Gracies. Paul was one of my Jeet Kune Do instructors, one of Guru Dan Inosanto's top instructors. So Paul took me up to see this guy called Rickson, and this was about 91 or 92, I think, a couple of years later. And so I rolled. The funny story when I rolled with Rickson, right? Okay, is that I'd actually taken my mother to LA. She was there at the time.
Yeah.
I'd had a car accident. Long story short, we'd had a blowout. The car had flipped over, wrote the car off. I snapped my scapula, and I didn't realize. So snapped my scapula. But anyway, so I go to train with Rickson. I go to see Rickson with Paul Vunak. So we go to see Rickson at 6 a.m. It's up in Pico Boulevard, the old school that they had. It was on Choke. So we go there. Rickson's there. Paul gets a roll with them, starts getting a lesson with them, and Rickson said, "You want to roll?" And in my head beforehand, I thought, "I'm not going to roll because my arm's killing me." I never knew it was broken, but then I went, "Yeah, I'll roll." And so I roll with Rickson. Well, I roll with Rickson in inverted commas, and so he's kind of playing with me, and then eventually, I go. I actually allowed me to get my Kessegatami, and I felt this sharp pain, and I went, man, I thought my arm's killing me. And that was the first time that I met Rickson. And so I rolled with him with a broken arm. So that's my Rickson story.
That's
for
a pretty
that.
cool story.
And then gradually, I kind of, every time I went to LA, I'd go and train with Rickson as much as I could. And I remember Rickson saying, do you want to go to this tournament with me? And I said to him, what tournament? He goes, there's a tournament my brother's going to go, and it's in Denver. He goes, it's going to be a big thing. And I said, at that time, I'd already been to LA, I think 3 times that year, and I had 6 loans on the go, 6 different loans. Oh, yeah. So I was like, I said, I wish I could, I just can't. I didn't know what the tournament was going to be, but it was UFC.
It's UFC 1.
It was UFC 1, yeah. So I didn't know.
Would you have been in the corner, or?
I don't think I would have been in the corner, but it was nice that you invited me, because Vunak went up there. Paul Vunak went up. I would have gone up with Paul, but as it happened, it never happened.
That's so funny.
So kind of knew Rickson. Then I came back, I think 94, and Rickson was telling me about the tournament his brother won. He said, have you seen the video? At that time, it was really hard to get video. I hadn't seen it. He said, oh, I did really well, blah, blah, blah. So kind of got to know Rickson through that, and he was always really, really nice to me, always very nice. And then, but I think, it was at the beginning of the story, the interview with Rickson in 96. I was writing for a magazine, and they said, can you get an interview when you're in LA with Rickson? I said, yeah. I said, I'll ask him. So I phoned him up, went up to I think it was Malibu he was in at the time with Kim, his then wife. And I went up to his house, and it was super cool, super nice, and really congenial, really friendly. And it was just, again, at that time, I mean, Rickson, I think, had been in Pride, but it was...
He would have done those Valley Tudo tournaments
94, 95, yeah, absolutely, the ones that were on choke, yeah, because at that time, because I said to him, I remember saying to him then, I said, there's a video going around of you, it was a bootleg video, and at that time, it wasn't called choke, it was called Last Man Standing. That was the name, that was the original name for choke, so... And I said, there's a video. He goes, yeah. He goes, but they won't learn anything from it. That was the first thing he said. And I thought that was interesting, that he picked up on that. And
he was worried that you were sort of implying that people were going to study the video and be able to work out how to beat him.
And he was going, they won't get anything from it. And I thought, well, there you go. There might be, I got a lot from it. I loved it. I got a lot of inspiration. Obviously, like most people, a lot of inspiration from what became choke. So, yeah, I interviewed him in the house. And again, he was always super nice to me, really good. And this is before I eventually met Mauricio, a couple of years before I met Mauricio, who obviously came in about 97, 98, something like that. But it was really cool. And the funny thing, you remember strange things when you meet guys like that. It wasn't even the jiu-jitsu, it was the fact that he was cooking. And I had a joke with him, and I just joked, and I said, Rickson, I said, I don't have a cooker in my house. I said, I have a microwave. And he went, you're kidding. He looked really disgusted, absolutely disgusted at me not being able to cook, And I was like, and I felt like I let him down, for some reason, My jiu-jitsu was terrible, but I felt I let him down in the cooking stakes. So, but he's always been really nice to me. So I've never been a student of Rickson, really. Yeah. It's not my instructor, although I trained with him quite a lot in the beginning. But he was always super nice to me. Yeah, and even when I see him now, Scott McVeigh has him over in Glasgow every couple of years or every year for seminars. Always go there and try and support it. And Rickson's always really nice to me. Yeah, so that's my Rickson story.
One, that's a way better story than I was expecting from I interviewed Rickson. So that's awesome. Secondly, sounds like you can get me a podcast with Rickson Gracie next time he's in Glasgow.
See Scott McVeigh. Scott McVeigh could probably do that. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't want to speak on Scott's behalf, but I'm sure he could probably do that. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
I'll come up and give it a crack.
That'd be an interesting one. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that was awesome. That's one of my favorite starts of the podcast ever. Just like, I think Legato was very similar. He just starts talking about how he met Rickson and would go surfing with Rickson and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a cool way to start.
Yeah.
Let's throw it back and kind of thinking either, you mentioned Mauricio, let's go that way, but let's not. Let's throw it back to the beginning and work our way through to you getting sort of to that sort of stage. So you are, you're not just a jiu-jitsu practitioner, like a lot of the old school guys, because jiu-jitsu was so small back in the day. Many of them are multidisciplined martial artists, and I know you even more than many are incredibly proficient in many martial arts. So let's throw it right back and say, how did you get into your first martial art or martial arts in general?
I started with a guy called Sean Shanley. We unfortunately passed away last year, a couple of years ago now. And Sean was is still now a massive influence. And it's interesting when you're young, you know, it could be a school teacher, it could be a parent, it could be an uncle, it could be anybody who's got a really positive influence on you. And so Sean was an uber athlete. I mean, like, I always felt like a slob next to Sean, you know. I mean, if I would do, like I was doing, like, when I was 13, 750 press-ups, right? He would do 1,000.
But you're actually doing 750 press-ups?
Yeah. But I would do them in sets of 20, and then I'd go 20, 20, 20, and just keep doing them until.
So you did 750?
50, yeah. But then the interesting thing is, you know, it's really interesting because I'm going to go off track now, but I was talking to Guru Dan Inosanto one time, and Damon Carroll was there. Damon's one of Guru's top instructors, and we were talking, and I wrote an article, and I said the most press-ups I've ever done, push-ups, proper push-ups, chest to floor, was 115. And
in one go?
In one go, yeah. So I went, and so Damon and Guru went, Guru Dan, if you know, was very, very humble. And he said, Rick, that's amazing. That's really great. So I said, oh, thanks, Guru. I said, I didn't write it to be big-headed. Somebody had mentioned it, and I said, and Damon said, Guru, tell Rick how many you've done. And Guru went, well, it's not a big deal. And I said, well, Guru, how many have you done? And he went, well, do you want to know? I said, yeah. So after a little bit of prompting, he said to me, he goes, when I was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, he said, I didn't have a lot to do, so I would do a lot of push-ups. So I did 500 straight. He said, chest to floor.
No.
And then he goes, I had 1 minute rest, and I pumped out another 500.
No.
Yeah. If you know Dan Inosanto, if you know Guru Dan, I'm sure Bob spoke about him a lot. I mean,
yes.
He's a combination of many things, an incredible, I mean, he was a guy, I think a weight of 125 was benching 295. He was amazingly strong. He was 100-yard dash, I think 9.7. Yeah, he was an American football player, super disciplined in what he did. Everything is disciplined. When he was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, he had written down 5 ways to tie his shoelaces. So he's got 5 different ways to tie his shoelaces. And so he's incredibly disciplined, you know, and really just an amazing man, you know. We'll talk about him later on. He's just an incredibly disciplined, amazing man. Well, Sean was kind of really disciplined, was like an uber athlete too. Sean always made me feel like a slob. He was amazing. And technically, I mean, it wouldn't be anywhere near what we have now. I mean, technically. But what Sean really instilled in me, what was really, was not giving up, persevering, going through mind over matter, just being mentally strong, and being a beast mentally. And of course, like we were talking about earlier on about the stones and stuff, it's a mental, it's the biggest fight you're going to have is in your own head, right? That's the big fight. That's the biggest fight. Not who's out there. Not that it doesn't matter, but you've got to beat yourself first. You've got to understand yourself and be an animal. And Sean taught me that. He said, you have to be an animal. He said, you have to be able to switch on and be an animal. Of course, you want to be a nice person, you want to be sociable, but if the, you know, push comes to shove, you want to be an animal and have that ability to be able to take somebody out very fast, very quickly, with total intensity, and be very, very violent at the same time. At the same time, that's one part of your persona. The other part of your persona should be that you're, you know, you're sociable. You're not a closet psychopath. You know, You know, so it's important to kind of delineate that. And for Sean really more than anything taught me that about, and that's what the push-up thing was about. You know, we would stand on the ledge of a window and just kind of go, can you drop off? Will you jump? And I was scared of heights, and I'm like, no, and he would just jump. He would fall off, but he would go like this.
Oh, how high? We're just talking
not that high. If I'm being honest.
Are you talking about standing on the ledge and going inwards?
Yeah.
Not standing
He's
on the
going
ledge
like this
out.
and then jumping. You know, no, going out. Going
outside.
Yeah, maybe something like, you know, maybe half a story or something. You know, where you jump off. And I was like, no. He goes, you got to do it. He said, what's stopping you? So like we would be walking down the road. You go do 50 push-ups, and I'd go, why? You go, why not?
Wow.
And I'd go, well, he goes, why not? He goes, what's stopping you? And so then it's got this mental game now. I'm thinking, I'm walking along to the cinema. They're going to see a movie, and he's asking me to do 50 press-ups. He goes, why not? He goes, say you're getting a fight right now. You have to push yourself, right? Yeah. I said, yeah. He goes, well, no. He goes, why not just do it? Because then you're getting used to that. And you know that from your training, right? So it's the same thing about that mental intensity. So Sean, I feel really privileged that he was my first instructor. He was the man who really taught me in the beginning about that. And it was a really good, although it also, has even now made me feel like a bit of a failure in a lot of things, So even though, maybe you've done certain things, I still feel like, I never done enough, because really I never done enough for him,
But he installed a mentality where nothing is ever adequate. You always have to push yourself further.
Absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you do,
It's a double-edged sword, that, because you need that. You see a lot of very high achievers who are, overworking themselves and almost to the point of self-destruction, and it can never be satisfied with anything. And it's this really weird balance between you need to have a mentality where you're never satisfied in order to become great, but at the same time, if you have that mentality, you never see yourself as great and you can never be fulfilled by it. It's this really weird dichotomy of success, really, where the mentality that you need to succeed is the same mentality that may feel like you never have. It's weird, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And you're absolutely right. And I think, but there's a point where you have to have, like, you have to almost have a third person view yourself.
Yeah, who's someone that you trust.
Yeah, and you have to have, and somebody says, and you go, okay, I'm actually doing okay here, even though you're not satisfied. It's almost like the Dave Goggins thing, isn't it? Where, I heard somebody say that they think he's actually a little bit too unbalanced, because he's so pushing himself all the time. He's never going to be satisfied with anything, which is good in one way. But in another way, sometimes you've got to step back and say, I remember winning a medal a couple of years ago in a championship, and I was just relieved. I wasn't happy, I wasn't happy. I was just so relieved it was over. I was going through a lot of stuff, divorce, all that stuff. Yeah. So, and it wasn't until about 3 months later, I was driving back from the gym, from the academy here. I got to the traffic lights not far from my house, and I thought, actually, that was pretty good. Yeah. And I gave myself a little pat on the back, and I felt really good. The lights changed and I go off, and it was just for that kind of 10 seconds or so. I thought, yeah, that was okay. So I was glad that I could do that, because then I could give myself a little bit of a pat on the back and go, okay, now you go. Not, oh, you could have done better, you should have done this, or you should have done that. So Sean, for me, it was a double-edged sword, where it was incredible. And again, I feel incredibly privileged that he was my first instructor. And so I went from Sean, and then I went to karate with...
Just quickly, Sean, you spoke about him. Sounds like a fascinating character.
Yeah.
And no one's going to be safe walking to the cinema with me anymore. I'm going to make him do 50 push-ups. But you never mentioned what martial art he was coaching.
Well, what he did was he had trained with three people. He had trained with three main people. He had trained with a man called Jimmy Delaney, Sensei Jimmy Delaney. We all later trained with. He came from Broxburn in West Lothian, which is a really tough town. And he was a thrower. So he did mostly tachiwaza throwing. He did judo, excuse me. He did judo,
so Sean was
This
judo.
is Sean's instructors, yeah. Okay. So Jimmy was an absolute beast, was an absolute animal. I mean, he, again, people are going to think I'm really violent, but just to recount, this is how I was brought up.
Yeah.
But Jimmy, got into a fight outside the Edinburgh Club, which is where he taught. 3 guys came to attack him. He threw them.
He was targeted.
He was targeted. 3 guys came to attack him. So Jimmy threw them, and he snapped all their arms.
Oh.
Knocked them all out by throws, and then snapped every one of their arms. And that's the kind of animal he was. But he was actually a super nice guy.
Yeah.
He was actually a super nice guy, but incredibly hard trainer.
Sure.
So he was the guy we was teaching to throw on. I was privileged to train with later on. In his day, an absolute animal. The other person was a man called Morris Allen. Morris Allen was a wrestler. He was the first person he only did 2 Sambo tournaments. He did one, the Europeans, and he got a silver in that. It was an Olympic judo champion beat him.
Wow.
There. And then he went to Russia in 1975, and he won the open weight Sambo championship.
He won a Sambo tournament in Russia.
And when it was Iron Curtain, in 1975. Yeah. So he was incredible groundwork, and I got the privilege to train with him once when he came up to the Edinburgh Club, and he was such a nice guy. Super groundwork. I mean, tie everybody up in knots. Amazing groundwork. Super fit. We'd run 13 miles to a tournament. Run to a tournament.
No.
Then run and then go back. So these guys were legends. The other person was George Kerr, who again I've had the privilege to train with since, and I've known for a long time. He's a 10th degree red belt in judo now, and a legend in Edinburgh. I mean, he's an absolute legend. And and he was training Sean. So those three men were training Sean at that time, from when Sean was 5 till he was about 13 or 14.
Yeah.
He was also training karate, he trained boxing. So what he would teach me was mostly throwing.
Yeah.
And again, this is just kids kind of getting together. Sean was a year older than me. But he would teach me throwing, and he would teach me groundwork. So this is 1975. Teach me
so
throwing.
This wasn't a formal martial arts training. This was
this was me, just meeting him. He would show me. I saw him knock somebody out on the street. Yeah. I saw him knock somebody out, and I went, man, that looks good. That's amazing.
Teach me that, yeah.
So, and I said, you show me some stuff. So he started showing me some stuff. But he was really JKD before JKD was there. So
the mix styles.
Because he would be boxing. We would have the pads. We would be boxing. We would be grappling. We'd have some sticks. He had learned some kind of kendo stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Again, technically, it wasn't anything like, I mean, the judo, the throwing would have been still technically as good as it is now, but technically it wouldn't be anywhere near what we've got now. But the mentality behind it was way, way ahead of its time. That's why when the UFC started, people said, oh, they're punching, kicking, and they're going to the ground. And I'm going, so what's new?
Yeah.
Really, it wasn't something that was new to me, not in an arrogant way, but I was, well, that's what we're supposed to be doing. So that's why I was drawn to the JKD with Guru Dan, because that was the whole emphasis behind that, was being proficient in every range. So if I was caught by a grappler, I could out-punch him.
Yeah.
If I was caught by a boxer, I could out-grapple him. A kicker, I could out-punch him or out-clinch him, or I could use weapons. And that was the whole theory behind that. And then I kind of had to go with what was available. And one of the people who were available at that time was Hamish Adam, who was a Wado instructor, a world-class instructor and fighter up at Meadowbank. So I trained with him for 6 years. I trained with Hamish. At the same time, I did a little bit of wrestling here and some boxing at Leith Victoria Boxing Club. So that was kind of like the mainstay. My build up from 75 to about 81, something like that, was training with Sean, training with Hamish Adam at the karate, which I loved at the time. I absolutely adored it. It was great. And Hamish was my hero. I mean, still is a hero to me. He's amazing. And training at Leith Victoria Boxing, training with some wrestlers, so we were trying to kind of put it together. But again, it was nothing like as available then as it is today.
Yeah.
So, we did that. And then 79, I met Guru Dan and in London at the Bruce Lee convention in London. Bob Breen was there. Actually, it was Terry Burnett had recommended to Bob that he get the seminar, get Guru Dan for a seminar. You got Guru Dan for a seminar. I went to the convention.
I didn't even know. I'd never heard of this before. The Bruce Lee convention.
The Bruce Lee convention, 79. It was a convention, obviously, for Bruce Lee. But the thing about it was that I'm trying to think if it was the first or second one. The first one, Guru Dan came with Jeff Amada, who's now a stuntman in LA. He's a really high profile stuntman. And he came with him, and he gave a demonstration. And the first time I met Guru Dan, they were playing Game of Death. And it was the first time Game of Death had been shown in Britain, because they had cut out that, and the first time they had shown it with the nunchuck scene, because they had cut that out, because it was too violent.
Really?
So I see Guru Dan going up to look at Game of Death. So he's watching it on the screen, right? So I think, I'm going to go over and talk to him. So I go over, I kind of tap him on the shoulder. I go, Mr. Inosanto, can I just say hi? He said, yeah. So he's got a cup of coffee. So just as we're doing that, he and I are looking at him getting his neck broken by Bruce Lee on the screen.
Yeah.
And I'm a 16-year-old kid, or 17, yeah. And I'm going,
it's
surreal, crazy. Yeah. It was surreal. It was like my hero here getting beat by my other hero on the screen. And it was just surreal. And he said something, I forgot what he said, but it was a really strange experience, and it was wonderful to meet him, and he's just been such an influence on me since then. I said to him at the time, I said, I'm going to come and train with you, and he said, sure, kid. And I said, no. I said, really, I want to train with you. And he went, yeah, whatever. And I was like, I was really rude. I grabbed him by the arm. He goes, no, I'm going to come and train with you.
Yeah.
And it took me another 4 years, I think, before I actually trained with him, but 4 or 5 years. But I went to train with him in LA in 84, and it was amazing. And I've been privileged to be a student ever since, and he's 83 now, going on 84 in July, and he's like just the most amazing man. Yeah, amazing person.
So how did you first know of Guru Dan?
through Bruce Lee, and obviously at that time I was a big Bruce Lee fan, and I still am, and found out that Guru Dan was his top student.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, if I can't train with Bruce Lee, then I'd like to train with this guy Dan Inosanto. And
were you already doing JKD?
And, well, I was doing. I think I was doing JKD. Some people would say I wasn't, but I think what Sean was doing was JKD. I think Sean was probably one of the most JKD people I've ever met.
Yeah.
I would say Steve Morris would fall into that as well. Steve Morris is someone who I think is Steve might not like the title, but I would say that his understanding of combat is amazing. So with Sean, I think Sean was doing JKD. I think we were doing what we thought JKD was, which was to be functional in all ranges, be combatively efficient, having economy of motion, all of those things that were really important about winning a fight, having the correct mentality, having a warrior's mentality, being an animal when you needed to be an animal, being able to switch on at different levels, where you could switch on to be kind of almost like passively aggressive, to being aggressive, to being extremely violent, And even Jigoro Kano says that in his book with Don Draeger. Jigoro Kano says you should be able to catch your opponent, maim your opponent, and kill your opponent.
Yeah.
And that's what Jigoro Kano said.
Yeah.
And he's Mr. Passive, right? Or supposedly passive. But even he said that a warrior should be able to have that mentality, and not just have the mentality, but have the physical ability to do that, to switch on and be able to protect your family, protect your loved ones, protect, your tribe, whatever, and be able to do that. So Sean, I think, was doing JKD back then. I think he was teaching me JKD and everything but name. And then when I met Guru Dan, I went to the Bruce Lee convention to go and meet him. Primarily, and to tell him that I want to go and train with them. And then I think the next year, 1980, there was another Bruce Lee convention. That's when Bruce Lee's mother was there, his brother was there, Guru Dan had come back, and that was the first seminar that I did with Guru Dan, and that was in Birmingham in June 1980, June 16th, 1980. So I did the seminar with Guru Dan then, and it was just blew my mind. I mean, it was like mind blown to a kid from Scotland to go and train with this guy. He was a living legend. He was showing stuff that I had just no concept of really understanding the depth that he was the level that he was playing at, and it just really inspired me to go and train with him. And I thought, I really want this. But there was such a big, now we can jump on a plane, we can hit a credit card. You and I could go to LA now, we could jump in, let's get a credit card and go. But back then it was like such a huge gap between where I was, earning like whatever a week, to actually being able to go and train with this man Dan Inosanto in LA with all these, superstars or whatever, these guys we were training with them. So, but I thought, no, I want to get there. It's a big thing that I want to do. It's something that I really want to do. And it kind of reflected back on what Sean was teaching me, which was to actually go actively after something, whether it's a physical opponent or whether it's, overcoming something mentally or, going toward the goal. So that was always something that was in my mind. So it took me a long time, but I got to LA in 84 and then started training with Guru Dan, and then, became his student, and then it was just, from there, it was fantastic. Yeah, great experience.
So how long did you spend in Los Angeles the first time training with
7
Guru Dan?
weeks. I think it was almost 7 weeks.
And I was just focusing on training every day.
Focusing on training. Really training hard every day, going for it. Me and my friend Gordon Henderson we went together, and we were taking a lot of classes, taking just about every class we could and really going for it. Now, since then, it's become much more specific because I think we spoke about before, as you get older, you get more responsibilities. As Guru Dan says, every 5 years, your training will change either because your physical abilities maybe declining or changing, or your family responsibilities are changing, So back then I spent almost 7 weeks. The next trip was roughly the same. And then gradually now, maybe I'll spend 6 days. But it's much more specific now because I'll go there, I'll have something in my head, I'll have a question for him and say, I don't really understand this or this. And now I'm very privileged. I can go and see him, text him, phone him and say, can I meet up, and I'll see him privately and then see him at the classes. So, very privileged to have that. And then I'll have something very specific to ask him. And it could just be a piece of advice about how to teach, or it could be something about, I'm having trouble Like I said to him one time, I said, what are your regrets? What would you change in your training? And this was about 5 years ago. I said, what would you change in your training if you could now? He said, one, keep your legs strong. He said, two, keep flexible. He said, the first thing that goes in a horse is the legs, right? He said, you need to keep strong in your legs.
So what's his advice for doing that? Does that mean squats, running, walking?
He actually never said anything, you know.
Just the concept of the legs are important.
That concept of just keeping your legs strong. So I actually started to squat after that, and doing deadlifts, which I'd never done before.
How'd you find, so what age were you when you started lifting for the first time?
I'm 57 now. Probably 48.
Yeah. How did that feel? How did you're pretty much a lifelong martial artist at that point, 50 years into martial arts. How did it feel to start lifting? How did your body react to that? Just really sort of off the, since you mentioned that.
It was, first of all, I don't like it.
Sure.
I don't like it. I just find it really boring. I really have to drag myself to the gym. And that's another mental thing, isn't it? Where you have to do something where you don't, it's like I say to the kids in here, I go, what's the best form of discipline? And they'll go, self-discipline. I go, because who's responsible for you getting better? And this is 5-year-olds. They'll go, we're responsible. I goes, yes, you are. You're the one. I said, I can teach you. Your mom and dad can bring you here, but who's responsible for you getting better? You are. Yeah. I said, so self-discipline is about making yourself do your homework or do the dishes or do whatever. And for me, the discipline you go to the gym is really tough. Sometimes I'm like, I really don't want to go there and lift. I just don't like it. I would rather roll for an hour, or hit the bag or, do some carenza or whatever. But my body, I got a friend called Neil Potts, who was the strength and conditioning coach for Scottish Rugby. He's in Australia, and he's in Australia right now. And he really helped me, and he'd put me through a program, which at first I thought was too light. I said, this is too, I goes, is this it?
And then you try and walk the next day.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I was going, and then I felt like my legs were, someone had gone in and just taken, and I was like, my glutes are killing me, my legs are killing me. I was like, man, my abs are killing me. I was like, I never really expected that, and, but I know it's good for me. I know at my age, it's just something I have to do.
It is. I actually think that strength and conditioning becomes more important the older you get.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about growing older. We were talking about earlier about getting older, and it's something that, you learn as you get older, and you go, I thought, I would need less discipline because I would do less, but you actually need more discipline as you get older. And that's the battle, because people say jiu-jitsu for life or martial arts for life. And I say, and I say, you don't really understand that until you get to a certain age, or get even now at 57, you go, it's tough, So when I hear an 18-year-old go, jiu-jitsu for life, I go,
we'll see.
Really? Really? Even at 30, you go, I'm getting in my 30s now. It's really bad. My body's changing. I'm going, seriously?
Yeah.
Really? I sat and I feel like an old man. In some ways I am an old man, but I go, you don't really understand that until later, until you've gone through the injuries, until you've gone through, personal problems, whatever. And you go, and I have to get through this, because it's easy to train when you're 18, you have no responsibilities. You've got no responsibilities, and you go, man, I train. I remember somebody saying, they train the Navy SEALs, they train the Navy SEALs. He goes, these guys can do this, this, and this. I said, they're Navy SEALs, they should be able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can take a housewife, a mother of 3, and get her to train, and get her to do an omoplata, that's the hard part, or get her to do something, that's the tough part. So I think the battle, as we were just saying, is in your head, where you're finding, you can find reasons not to go to the gym. At least I could. I can find 1,000 reasons not to go. I go, I'll just hit the bag today. Yeah. And I'm going, but what's really more important is that I deadlift from a core, from my overall strength. I need to deadlift, so I need to drag myself there to get that done. Yeah. So.
No, super fascinating. Yeah.
It's a bit of a battle, I'll be honest with you, to get
But that's it, we need those. We need those battles.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think you need to run in the direction of stuff that you want to run away from is a generally, and that could be anything. Like you said, that could be a fear of heights. So you stand on the edge of the window and look down and jump or something, obviously not too high, but you get the idea. Whatever you dislike, you should sort of run towards it instead of running away from it.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think you got to face your fears and then go through, and even like competition, things like that. I never liked competition, but I've competed in certain things, and I go, I don't like that feeling, when, the night before even really good judo guys have told me night before competitions are throwing up. An Olympic competitor told me, goes, I wanted a bus to run me over.
Yeah.
He said, I want to be hit by a bus the night before the tournament.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy because you watch these guys go on and they look so confident.
Yeah. And
the great Yasuhiro Yamashita, the judo player, he won 203 matches on straight, undefeated, 203 at world-class level.
Wow. From
17 to 24. He said it was really interesting in his book. I don't know if you've read his book, Fighting Judo. It's a very interesting book. And he says in it that the night before a tournament, he would clean his whole house up, make sure his washing was done, make sure that everything was in order, so that if he died in the tournament, his family wouldn't be ashamed of him.
Wow.
So I was like, but that's taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So when you've got guys like that and you think and he said he would lose like 4 kilos. I think it was 4 kilos the day before, sometimes before the Olympics. I think he lost 4 kilos. It goes, before the Olympics, he lost 4 kilos just through nerves. He was open weight, so he didn't have to lose. Yeah. So he said just through nerves, couldn't eat and nerves. And you're looking at him going, he's one of the best judoka of all time. And yet he was super nervous. You would never know it when he walked on.
And also the combination of, there's a lot of people who go, I'm ready to the whole thing with your shield or on it. I'm ready to die in battle in this MMA fight or in this grappling match or this Olympics or whatever, and have to the point where not just saying that, not even telling yourself that, but genuinely physically in the real world, in reality, doing things that would, if it came to pass that you did die in the tournament, would put you in a, family in a better position, whatever. But at the same time, being incredibly nervous. The combination of those two things is like, I'm ready to die and I'm terrified.
It's a crazy thing, isn't it? Yeah. And I think anybody that's honest, like Rickson said, fear is a sign of intelligence, and it's true. You have to be aware of if you don't feel fear, I think Mick Jagger said one time, somebody said to him, are you still nervous when you get in front of a big crowd? He said, of course. He said, it's a huge crowd. It's because if you're not nervous, you're not taking it seriously. You have to take it seriously and you have to be aware of what's going on. And these guys, I think some people can throw words like that around lightly. It's heavy words lightly thrown, right? They're throwing out these things. I'll die. I'm prepared to die in the UFC. Why would you want to die in the UFC? Why would you want to die in a jiu-jitsu tournament? Why? You wouldn't want to, but if you say to yourself, I'm taking it seriously, as seriously as I can, then I think that's really important. That's an important thing to have that kind of warrior mentality, and then to build up layer upon layer mentally, so that if you do get in a situation where you might be in a situation where you have to protect your family and you have to go for it and you have to go all out and you have to go balls to the wall and you have to go for it, that you've got that there, that's in there. So you're developing, as you said, when you're lifting the stones, you're connecting, with the past, you're connecting with yourself, you're connecting with the earth, you're connecting with everything around you. And also you're building layer upon layer mentally. You don't have to go and lift a stone. You don't have to go and do a jiu-jitsu class. Yeah. But when you do, you're building layers mentally. That's why I say to people here, for some people, the biggest battle they're going to have is getting through the door here and then going on the mat. That's a huge battle.
It is.
So that's the Olympic gold medal right there. Yeah. That's an Olympic gold. When they walk through the door and they go, can I do a jiu-jitsu training? And you know what it's like for us, we walk on the mat and there's 50 guys here and we go, hey guys, what's going on? And you've got 8 black belts, 10 black belts on the mat, whatever. You go, oh, that's cool. But then for them, they walk in and go, whoa, this is like a totally different environment. So for them, for someone, that's why, again, I say to my guys here, if they go for a local tournament, someone said, oh, well, it's not the Worlds. I goes, it is to you. It's an Olympic gold medal to you. I said that whether it's a white belt fighting in the first tournament, or it's Roger going for the black belt adult category, or Bashesha, or whoever, individually, that's a major battle for you. And I think that's the battles we need to win as individuals, right? And that's a lot of what martial art teaches us, is about fighting small battles. These battles are within ourselves, and then just overcoming that. And as I say, for some people, getting through the door is
that is huge, and it's something that we need to be consciously aware of. As most people will be listening to this, look, the majority of people listening to this podcast will be people who already train. And they won't think about it. They'll walk through the door and they won't even think about it. Sometimes you're going for a real hard session and you get a bit of adrenaline. But for the most part, you walk in and you do something because you've done it 1,000 times. But that first time you walk into a jiu-jitsu gym, and we forget what that's like.
Absolutely,
It's been too long. We forget what that's like.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I've spoken to some of my students who haven't been training for too long, and I've known of people in the past to walk up to a jiu-jitsu academy. They've been psyching themselves up for weeks to come. They've been wanting to train for weeks. They've been driving past it. Maybe one time they drove and then they drove away. I've heard about someone getting to the door, putting their hand on the handle, and then turning around and getting back in the car and going home.
Yeah, guys.
And you'd be surprised. So I think it's so important. I always tell, I'm sure I said it on the podcast, but I always try and tell people, remember that when someone walks in through the door.
Yeah.
Remember that they're not as comfortable as you are. Try and make everyone that walks on the mat for the first time feel incredibly welcome, because it may seem insignificant to you, but it can actually be a massive thing for someone walking through the door. That's a real hard battle for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's interesting because people kind of shield it, because they're going to go, hey mate, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that's shielding their insecurity. Yeah. And if, to be honest with you, I used to go, man, here we go, here's another one. But then you look kind of past that and you go, actually, you know what? This guy or this lady is actually insecure. Or, I mean, I think most people get into martial arts because they're insecure.
Sure.
Or they have some form of insecurity, whether it's a physical thing or they want to lose weight or whatever it is, when they learn self-defense. And when people come in like that, now you kind of look and you go, you know what? That's just a cover for you. Yeah. You're trying to throw something in front here. You know, they're trying to have this mask. You're going, listen, just relax. I've said to people before, it's okay, just relax, just come on the mat. Yeah, I know how to grapple. Yeah, I'm going, okay, that's great. That's cool. Yeah. You're going to go into a bunch of animals just now, but I'm not going to throw you to the lions because you think you can grapple because you've grappled some guy in your garage. So I think that it is important to have martial arts for everybody. And when we say jiu-jitsu is for everybody, or martial arts generally, we really got to make that, as you said, you got to make that step or extend your hand toward them and say, listen, come on in. You're going to be fine. It's going to be cool, you know. Yeah. And then you can take it to whatever level you want to take it, you know.
Yeah, 100%. One thing you just said there that I thought was really interesting, which is that everyone gets into martial arts for a reason. I think. Do you remember why you got into martial arts? Was it simply
insecure? Yeah, as an insecure kid, I want to be the best fighter in the world. That was my aim, was to have nobody who could beat me. My aim was to win street fights. Yeah. My aim was so nobody could beat me in a street fight. That was my aim, to be an animal and to be able to take people apart in a street fight. Yeah. That was my initial aim as a kid. Yeah, because when I was a kid, I remember when I was in the boys' brigade, and I must have been 10, and 10. Yeah, I must have been 10, something like that, 9 or 10. And I was up the middle of Edinburgh, right? And we just had this five-a-side football game. And I came out, and it was the time Clockwork Orange was a big film.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So that was...
It's one of my favourite films.
Oh, is it really? Right, okay.
Orange, yeah.
So a lot of violence in it, right?
Yes.
So the guys used to go about with the Crombies with I think if you had the red part out, you were in a gang. If you had it in, you weren't in a gang. So I saw these guys in Crombies going around. And we were at the bus stop. So I was with, and the people looking after us must have been about 20 or something, you know. So I was there, and then he started punching this guy. They put him on the pavement, and he started jumping on his head. 2 feet jumps. Not like a stomp. And I remember them jumping up, and this guy's head was getting pummeled in the pavement. And I looked at the guy who was looking after us, and he had died. I mean, and no offense to him, but he was petrified. He couldn't do anything to protect us. And I was really scared. I mean, I was like, even now I'm getting a little goosebumps thinking about it. I was really scared. And I remember looking, I said something to him, I forget what I said, but I thought, he can't do anything. None of us can do anything here. Those guys can do anything they want to us. Can do nothing, nada, you know, so I think that was a pivotal moment for me where I saw that violence, and I'd seen some other violent things, but that was the one that really stands out, where I thought, I don't want that. I want to be able to look after. I don't want to be in a position where somebody can impose themselves on me like that. And that was really. And when I met Sean, he was a perfect teacher for me. If I'd met someone who was a lot softer, it probably wouldn't have been right. But he was really the perfect teacher for me to say, but what you need to do to get to that end result where nobody can beat you is you have to go through and beat yourself. You have to mentally drag yourself through the mud. As we were saying, do things that you don't want to do. Do 50 press-ups when you're going away to cinema. Yeah, go home, do this, do that. I remember the night before we saw Dan Inosanto in 1980, so I'd seen him in 79.
Yeah.
Sean wasn't there. Seen him in 1980. The night before we saw him, we were at the chip shop. It's about 10:30 at night. So we were talking, and Sean goes, we should do something to honor him, to honor Guru.
Yeah.
I remember called him Guru Dan at the time, to honor Dan. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, we should do something hard. Now, this is 10:30 at night, right?
Yeah.
So I said to him, well, what do you mean? He goes, let's do sit-ups. He goes, let's do 1,000 sit-ups tonight. And I went, but I'm going to go home. I had work in the morning, and I remember I had to work, and then I had to go and get a bus to London the following night. So I said to him, overnight bus. So I said to him, okay, so I said, so what do you want to do? He goes, let's do 1,000 sit-ups. I go, okay, fine. So we're having our chips, right? Now this is 10:30 at night. I've got to go home and do 1,000 sit-ups now. Then get up for work, do a day's work, get ready, get night bus to London with Sean.
Yeah.
So, and then he goes, let's do 2,000. And I go, okay. Ends up, we do 3,500. Right? I started at 12. It was after 12 at night. And then I finished about 3:30 in the morning, right? My mother thought I was mental. My mother thought I was off my head, right? So I did 3,500. I meet Sean the next day. I goes to him, I said, so did you do it? He went, yeah. I goes, you do 3,500? He goes, no. He goes, I did 5,000. I goes, you serious? He went, yeah, did 5,000. I goes, why didn't you do 3.5? He goes, 5's better. So that was his mentality about always pushing and going beyond. I mean, I'm doing sit-ups thinking, it's 2 a.m. I'm like, why am I doing these sit-ups? And I knew why I was doing it, but it was just like, it was like this kind of thing in my head where I needed to do it. And Sean was, I wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for Sean.
Yeah.
And he was pushing me on to go there. So mentally, I was preparing for the fight that might happen, where I was in front of someone who was trying to control me. And again, it's fear and it's insecurity, and of course, it's that, and so, that's why I got into martial art there. It was insecurity, fear, just those things that most people feel, you don't want somebody to be able to control you, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. And by being, and as you go through life, being tough doesn't always mean I'm the tough guy and whatever, but just at the moment you need to be, you can switch the animal back on. And you need to be able to switch the animal back on. I remember there's a friend of mine from here, Tommy Connerfrey, a really good friend of mine. I love him to bits. And Tommy said to me one day, I won't get into it, but he was talking about something really violent that had just happened in Leith and here. It was very violent, extremely shocking. And a couple of guys had done some stuff, and I was like, man, and he goes, Ricky goes, never forget where you came from. He says, always have it in you, always have the animal there. He goes, because I live a middle class life now, because now my life is, I live in Haddington, and it's a nice country town and it's a nice place. And I lead a middle class life. I have my sons, my girlfriend, and I have a really nice life. I have a nice gym. The people here are really nice. But he said to me, never forget, Rick, that it might happen one day. And it kind of was a bit of a wake up call to me. He said, you have to be able to get there quickly. And what he meant was get in here quickly so as I can then go out and do what I need to do. And I said, okay, I said, you're right. I'd forgotten that. And what he was talking about at the time about some of the stuff that happened, he said, you don't want to live there. You don't want to live there because when you live there, it's a sick place. It's a poisonous place to live because if you live thinking about fighting all the time, you get adrenal secretions going through your body all the time, and then it turns into poison, right? Jeff Thompson talks about it, Pierre Constantine talks about it all the time, and it's not good for you to live in that
constant state of fear.
Yeah, it's not good for it. But if you're aware of it, if you're aware that it's there at the same time, and that's what we're talking about now, I think I'm more balanced. So I'm aware that that's there, but I'm also aware that there's a lot of really good things. And it doesn't have to be like that. I come here and have a wonderful time in my academy, and there's some everybody's really beautiful, really nice people. We train, the guys train are really nice. People are happy. And that's really important. But at the same time, you want to be able to switch on that animal. You want to be an animal and be able to switch on that beast if you need to be there. And again, it's not that you want to be there. It's not that you want to do, but it's like having a car. You know, if you have a Porsche, I mean, I'm not going to go up Leith Walk at 160 miles an hour.
If you need to.
But if I need to get to the hospital and take my kid to the hospital, boom, I'm going. You know, I'm going to go there. And that's an important thing to develop. So the long-winded answer, but that's why I started. That's why I started martial art. And I think most people do that because it's some form of insecurity, you know, where you go to a gym because you feel overweight or you don't feel in shape or you don't feel this or you don't feel that or you want to build something up, you know. And, you know, we used to say to my son, you know, we used to go, "Who loves you?" And because I'm a Christian, right? And I go, we go, "God loves you." He goes, "God loves me." I said, "Good. Who else loves you?" "My mum and dad love me." "Who else loves you?" "My sister loves me. My brother loves me." "Who else loves you?" "My auntie loves me." And then we go, "Who else loves you?" He goes, "I love me." And that was the most important thing for us, is to build a sense of self-esteem in him, so that when he grew up, he would go, "I'm worth loving. I'm worth looking after." And I look at the kids now in my kids' class, and I'm going off track now, but, basically what they're teaching in schools now, they're teaching kids that if they're being hit in the playground, this is actually their protocol. If you're being hit in the playground, you're not allowed to hit back, you know. And I tell my kids it's absolute nonsense on two fronts. One, by law, you're allowed to defend yourself appropriate to what you're being hit. But two is, if you're taking children and you're telling them that it's okay for them to be hit, then what kind of adults are they going to turn out to be, you know? They're going to be turned to be insecure adults who think it's okay for somebody to come along and smack them. I said it's ridiculous, especially for girls, because if girls are getting hit when they're 5 and they're said you can't defend yourself, when they get the first abusive boyfriend, that's what they've been getting all the time. And I actually wrote to the school authorities and said, "This is actually crazy what you're teaching these kids. You shouldn't be teaching them to fight. You shouldn't be teaching them to fight. But certainly if you're being attacked and there's no other way out, you should be able to defend yourself." It's just, and a couple of the parents have said to me, "We've been told that they're not allowed to hit back." I said, by common law, that's actually illegal. You should be able to, appropriate to what's going on, you should be able to get yourself out. So I think it kind of stems from that, where, like, I've tried to teach my son and about having self-belief in himself, about loving himself, about caring for himself, not in an arrogant way, but just, I'm worth defending, you know?
Yeah, you have to build that in kids,
because most of us will fight more for the ones we love, for your dad or your mum or your loved ones. So if somebody hits me, I go, whatever, you know, just whatever, you know, unless it's a real threat or I feel it's a real threat. If somebody hits my girlfriend, I'll knock them clean out. If somebody hits my son, you're getting knocked out. There's a primeval, you know, a primordial feeling there that you go, man, you're getting taken out completely. If you're going through a window, my thing is, I'm going to pick you up and put you through a window. You attack my son, you attack my children. You've totally overstepped the line there, you know. And you know, I had that on the door once in particular, where a guy was threatening me.
You worked as a bouncer?
I worked as a bouncer. Yeah. I was 17 when I worked as a bouncer. I shouldn't have been on the door. It was actually illegal for me to be on the door. But the first time I worked. But anyway, but I remember one time a guy said to me, he said, "I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do that." And he was outside the door, and I went, "Oh yeah, fine, whatever." He goes, "I'm going to come back. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." And I went, "Yeah, fine. Yeah, whatever, you know." And he goes, "I'm going to come and get you and your family." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm going to get your family." And I said, "You really want to be careful what you're saying." He said, he never got out. He said, "I'm going to get your family." I knocked him clean out. I thought, no, you've just overstepped. You want to threaten me? That's fine, but you're not going to come and get my family. That's not going to happen. That's just something that's not going to happen. So I think, you know, there has to be lines that you understand, and you go, this is the line where I'm going to, if they cross this line, then I'm going to be able to switch on. But if they don't, that's okay. I can switch back, you know. So like I said, a Porsche thing, you know, where if you're going along a city, you know, you're going in the city, you can go 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, whatever. But if you need to, you go on the motorway, boom, you can go. And it's, if you need to go, then it's always there. If you don't, that's okay. That's fine. You know, you just hang back. But as you said, I think we were talking about the stones earlier, that you have to edge it every now and then. You have to feel like what it's like to be on the edge every now and then. And sometimes for me, it's like competition, you know, when you're getting ready for a competition, you're more nervous and you think, oh man, I don't really have to do this, but it's something that you have to do. You go, I'm nervous. And it's not a street fight or anything like that, but it's testing yourself and pushing yourself a bit so you can feel a little bit out of the normal set of circumstances you would be in. So I think that's that's very important as well. Having that ability to just push yourself every now and then and go, I've still got it. And we were talking about Everest earlier on. That was something, the base camp thing, that was good for me to push, where I hadn't done anything like that before. Yeah. And it was physically a challenge for me.
So what made, because we were talking about this and I thought it was really interesting that you said you went to base camp last year,
2018.
What made you decide that you were gonna, and you've already mentioned that you have a fear of heights and stuff like that. Yeah. You have no history in climbing big mountains. So what makes you decide in your mid 50s that you're going to try and scale to base camp?
Well, there's a couple of things that seems unrelated, but it's kind of the main thing was last year I had 3 friends die within 2 weeks.
Wow! So
and they all had their funerals. One had funeral 1 day apart. So basically I carried 3 coffins in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. So I carried three people that I know, friends, coffins in 2 weeks, and of course that makes you reassess. You start to get to a point, what is it they say? Your life consists of, at first it's birthdays, then it's weddings, then it's funerals, know? So it goes in the 3 stages. So I was kind of thinking, this is kind of crazy. And then my old judo instructor, Mark Preston, had been doing a charity event, does charity events every year. And he said, we're going to go to Everest. Would you like to come? And I thought, you know what? I've always thought about going to Everest. I've always thought about doing that, but I'd never really had the opportunity. So I thought, yeah, let's go for that. So we did that, and it was really tough. For me, it was tough, especially.
So it took 3 weeks. You said
3 weeks. It was roughly 3 weeks. Yeah, it was just over 3 weeks.
It's a really long time to be.
Yeah, well, but between flying there and everything, it wasn't really 3 weeks on road. I forget exactly how many days it was, but it was a long time for me. It was a long time. Yeah. Even getting the flight into Lukla Airport, which is the most dangerous airport in the world.
What, for landing on?
For landing on it. Really? I think it's a 200-meter runway, or less. Maybe less than that. Maybe I'm wrong. Something like that. But it's notorious. When we went back, there'd been when we flew back on, as we came back to Lukla Airport, it's tiny. I mean, you look at it through a fence. Yeah. And 2 days before there'd been it'd been a Nepalese New Year. So I don't know what happened, but a plane had crashed into a helicopter. And a couple of people had died. Yeah. And we got there 2 days after this, and all they'd done is shoved it to the side, shoved the plane and the helicopter to the side, so you can still see that, and you're taking off. Yeah. On the most dangerous airport in the world, National Geographic said. Yeah. And and I'm looking, going, that doesn't inspire confidence in me. When we went in, I didn't find it too bad because you're going through Himalayas. That's amazing. But it was a really great experience for me because it was like we was saying about reconnecting with nature. You're getting away from, most of the things that are occupying your time elsewhere. Yeah. Which, I mean, I love my life. Don't get me wrong. I love my life. But it was nice to go somewhere different, kind of clear my head, a little bit. I was going through a divorce and all that stuff. And it was nice to clear my head and get space, and see a different culture as well. Sure, yeah. I mean, you look at these guys that are climbing up the Nepalese, the guys who are working going up the mountain.
Sherpas?
Sherpas. Yeah. The Sherpas, yeah. And then there's the helpers. I forget what they call them now. But these guys are going up with one guy had, I think it was 6 bags. Wow. 6 bags going up like this. I'm really having a hard time. Yeah. I mean, I'm having a really tough time going up. I'm getting altitude sickness. And these guys are going past me. And it's really humbling. I'm going, man, you think you're in shape, or you think you've got...
These guys are built, even they've evolved to get up this mountain though.
Do you know what?
Stuff with they don't suffer altitude sickness and stuff like that. Their bodies, whatever it is, it uses the oxygen more efficiently. But they've done, obviously, when you climb to the summit of Everest, you need to do it. You cannot do it instantly. If you were to do it instantly, you would get severe altitude sickness. I think you can even die. I think you would die if you were to be teleported from sea level to the top of Everest. You would die because your body hasn't adapted to it. But they've done tests with some of these Sherpas and stuff, and they put them in isolation chambers where they can control the amount of oxygen in the room, and they reduce it essentially from ground level to the summit instantly, and they're absolutely fine.
Seriously,
yeah. It's unreal. It's unreal. Their bodies are literally different to ours in how they can deal with those environments.
It's interesting to see evolve, because that's a great way of putting it. They evolve into it. Because for me, I mean, maybe because of my age, I don't know. Maybe if I'd done it when I was 27, it would have been a lot easier. I mean, but there was a guy with us, Alan Sinclair, was 73, and he did it far easier than me. I think he prepared.
Was it his first time? Or?
It was his first time, yeah.
Wow.
And I think he prepared better for it too. If I went now, I would prepare a little bit differently.
How would you prepare? Just walking more, or
no? Do you know what? I think what I did was I did a lot of walking. Up the hills here in the Pentland Hills, and obviously you don't get altitude there, but maybe 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes walking, and going up, down, whatever. But I would do a lot more high intensity workout, like I used to do for competitions.
Sure.
Do a lot more Thai pads, a lot of high intensity, and I think I missed that. I missed that edge. So I really felt the altitude sickness. It really hit me quite badly. I mean, I stumbled into base camp. I mean, I barely made it. And we went to base camp, and when we got there, they have a tent prepared for you. So we get to base camp. I'm literally on my last legs. We get there, I smile for the photo. I come out, I think, man, I can't really go home. And I've got real depletion. And then he said, okay, we're going to go to the tent. I goes, well, where's the tent? He goes, oh, it's like half an hour that way. No. And I'm thinking, we've got to go half an hour this way, half an hour to get back here, and then 3 hours to get back to the camp that we're going to.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you must be joking. You got to be kidding. And I said, I won't swear, but I said, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And he went, no, we got to go there. So I had to go there. I had to have a half hour sleep, 40 minutes sleep. And I was just taking like tea. I mean, I drink coffee and stuff, but I was taking sugars in it. I was just throwing sugar in it, taking protein bars. And then I eventually got back. One of our team had to be helicoptered out.
No way.
Yeah, had to be helicoptered out. And he was doing really great up until the last part. And then, unfortunately, he was out to be helicoptered to Kathmandu.
He passed out, or
he actually did. He pass out? Yeah. He had to sleep. I don't think he passed out on the way back, but he was like really like finished. I mean, he was like gone. So it was really tough mentally, but it was also really good because I think there's a real, I don't know what the word is, honesty about being there. I think, when you're there.
You can't fake it. You can't fake it.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or if you're a postman or if you're whatever it is, that you go, we're all there together. We're all working together and you're at the mercy literally of it. And because the weather can change so quickly, you're thinking, oh yeah, I'm fine. You take your coat off, you got really warm. Next minute it's raining, it's cold, So it was really interesting experience for me, and really, I think really good for me mentally as well, to clean me out and just give me a sense of perspective, especially when you see these people who are really working for nothing as well. It's a third world country, and you go there and you just feel like connected to it. And of course, I never went to Everest itself, just a base camp, but it's still a great experience. Really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is like, I've spoken loads on the podcast about my back injury, and for the most part, my back's really good now, and I've done things that I thought I never would be able to do, such as to be able to lift the stones that I've done over the last week. But the one thing that gets me these days, so I used to, 5-6 years ago, couldn't walk for more than 5 minutes, couldn't stand for more than 5 minutes, like it just gave me a lot of problems. Now I'm fine with all of that, but walking up a gradient, can be any gradient, just a low gradient, but walking up a hill for more than 5 minutes, just for whatever it is, the tightness or the angle, just my back seizes up. So that's one of the most unfortunate things about traveling around Scotland, which is so beautiful. But I'd love to take a bit of time and to actually hike up one of these mountains. And it's one of those things that I can't. I feel like I have a limitation there, but then at the same time, kind of talking like, therefore I need to do it. I need to try and get past that. Maybe that should be one of my goals, is to make it the base camp and prove to myself, don't tell yourself that you can't do that, because I told myself I couldn't do other things in the past, and with enough work, I managed to do them. So maybe I need to get the base camp as well.
I think it's like basically a hike. It's just basically a walk.
Yeah.
It goes up and down. That's what surprised me. It was like, because
you expect it to go straight up.
Yeah. You can do. I think when you do like Kilimanjaro, I think you go pretty much straight up. But when you go to base camp, you're at Lukla, and then you're kind of edging your way toward. It's almost as hard coming back as it is going there,
because you're going up and down again.
Yeah, and you really feel it. At least for me, you know. I mean, some people might breeze through it, but for me, it was tough. And yeah, but it was a good challenge, yeah. Maybe next time, I think there's a place called Namche Bazaar, which is kind of halfway between Lukla and base camp. And I think I would like to go there again, and maybe just extend off that a little bit. I mean, I'll go to base camp. Yeah.
No, really interesting. But should we get back onto the martial arts?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about but everything you said, like super fascinating, like amazing stuff. So you're training with Guru Dan.
Yes.
And you're out there. Did you, so at the time, and can I get this timeline right? Because obviously I've spoken to Bob Breen on the podcast as well, who is also obviously one of the main JKD guys in the UK. Absolutely, and I think in Europe. Yeah. Was he the first person to bring JKD to the UK?
Yeah, really. I mean, Bob was the first person to, I think, in 79, I think Terry Burnett had said that Guru Dan was coming, and then Bob invited Guru Dan to do the seminar. I never attended that seminar. It was in 79, September 79, and that was the first seminar he did. So yeah, Bob's really pivotal in it. I mean, if it wasn't for Bob, a lot of people wouldn't be where they are now. So he was amazing, in the way he.
But you must have been soon after that.
Yeah, I think my idea was to go and train with him, to go and train with Guru Dan as soon as I got the money. And I started training. I'm terrible for, I'm a stickler for dates. Somehow I can't remember anything else, but I remember dates. But August 78, I put my first £10 in the bank. Yeah. And that was toward America. And it was a while, 6 years before I actually got there. Yeah. But I remember doing that. And that was the year before Guru Dan came. And then when I heard he was coming, I thought, no, I really want to go and train with him. Yeah. So, and then I saw him in 1980, and then went to, in 84. And I think, like Bob was obviously, he's a little bit older than me, and so he was kind of ahead of the game there. But Bob is hugely influential for a lot of people in terms of their development. Bob really helped me in the beginning. My good friend Terry Burnett, a really fantastic martial artist. Terry helped me massively as well, and at the time, excuse me, I mean, I was coming out of Leith, and I had no real contacts or anything, I didn't really know anybody. I had some friends that really supported me, Steve Stevenson, but I had no real contacts. And again, to make that jump to LA, it was such a huge jump. It was a massive jump to go to LA and train at the Inosanto Academy. And when I did that, I really felt like I'd accomplished something. I really felt, even if I had never gone back, that I'd really accomplished something. I proved to myself that a kid from Leith can go there, train with some of these people, and do well. And when I got to see Guru Dan then, it was obviously technically amazing. I mean, I've told this story before, but it really meant a lot to me, where I went to the academy one day, and Guru Dan was the only person there. I was early, and he was there. And so I'm talking to him, and then he picks up a brush, and he starts brushing the gym. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at him, I go, Guru, I said, just give me the brush. So we're arguing over a brush now. Yeah. So I've got me and Dan Inosanto there, and I'm going, no, I'll brush, because I don't want to watch him sweeping the floor. Yeah. So he goes, Rick, he goes, just read the magazine, go and read a magazine. And I went, I call him Richard at the time, he goes, Richard, go and read a magazine. And I said to him, Guru, I said, I don't want you to be brushing the floor. He goes, Richard, he goes, read the magazine. He gave me the magazine, goes, just keep it. He never sold me it because we were selling the magazine. He gave me it. And it really impressed me because he wasn't trying to impress anybody else. There was nobody else there.
Yeah.
He was being honest. He was just saying, no, I want you to sit there and read the magazine. I'll sweep the floor. And it was a lesson in humility and true humility, not pretending you're humble or, whatever.
You see a lot of that.
Yeah. And it was true humility. And he's never changed. He's always been incredibly, what's the word, just incredibly inspirational, incredibly, giving, to me through many things. I mean, I've been with Dan Inosanto. I went to his house one time. It's about 93. And there's a man called Edgar Saluti who's unfortunately passed away. So I'm there and Guru goes, I've arranged for a private with Edgar for you. And I went, oh, okay, thanks, Guru. So at the end of the private with Edgar, I go, how much is it? He goes, oh, he's already paid. So he's done that a lot for me. He's paid for private lessons for me to take private. Guru Dan has paid for private lessons for me. I take them and he pays for them.
Yeah.
And I went, Guru, no. And then he said, what are you doing on Saturday? I said, nothing. He goes, he said, I've arranged to fly you to Texas. You're going to come to Texas with me.
Wow.
Yeah. And, he's done so many things where it's been such an inspiration, not just, obviously technically. I mean, he's on a different planet. I mean, I've never seen anybody train the way he trains.
Really?
Honestly, I've never seen anybody go at it the way he goes at it. He's in a nice way. As we're talking about, he's a complete animal in a totally nice way. But his mentality about training is like just almost non-stop, and I learned a long time ago, I can't keep up with that. I don't have that. I love martial arts, but I don't have that level of interest. I just do not have that level of interest. He sat at a Tai Chi, Bagua and a Singi seminar for 8 hours, just sat and watched. And I said to him, so what did you get? He goes, I got 2 things. So I'm like, really?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. And so he will do that. He'll sit and watch and go, I got 2 things from that. It was really interesting. I remember one time he took a private, I'm not going to say what it was a jiu-jitsu private. And the guy was teaching him how to get out an arm grab. And I'm going, you're paying $150 to get taught how to get an arm. This is Dan Inosanto.
Yeah.
And the guy's going, do this. And I'm actually getting upset.
So Dan's paying for the private?
Paying for the private.
Yeah.
And the guy's showing him how to go to the thumb and come out.
Yeah.
And I'm looking going, and I'm actually getting upset. I'll be honest with you. I'm going, this is Dan Inosanto. Come on, let's
show some respect. Yeah.
And I think the guy was just taking him through some basic stuff, but okay, fine. But I was actually getting upset. And so we went back to the academy. I went back with him and I said, so girl, what did you get out of that? He goes, I learned about base. He goes, I never really understood base. He goes, but Rick, I don't think he understands weapons, because when you do weapons, you don't need base. And then he goes into 19 different ways to get out of this arm drag, right? Yeah. And he goes, Ark Wong taught me this, Bruce Lee taught me this, Johnny Lacoste taught me this, Jean LaBelle taught me this. He named every single one that that had taught him how to get out differently. He showed why they taught him how to get out differently. He goes, but Rick, he taught me base. He goes, I never really thought about that before. So for him, and then I realized that I was actually being really immature, that I was the one that was out of line, because I had kind of closed my mind off to that, and I was actually wrong. And that's why he's so good, because he'll subjugate his ego.
He sees another level.
He sees it on a different level. I've seen him take privates where I know he knows what it is. Like, again, I won't name this guy, but this guy was showing him some stick. So the guy's showing him some weaponry, and I'm the dummy. I'm the one I'm the dummy for the guy. So the guy's showing it, and I'm thinking, I know this stuff. So Guru Dan knows it. So the guy says, yeah, Dan, what we do is this, we do this, we do this. And I'm thinking, the system that you're teaching him, he teaches me.
Yeah.
So what's going on here? So I say to Guru Dan later, so why did you, maybe I shouldn't be saying this a bit, but I said, why did you take that? He says, because I wanted to know. He says, the people that are teaching him wrong. He says, now I know what they're teaching him. And he goes, but he doesn't realize that what he's been taught is wrong, is incorrect. So he'll kind of go through the back door and he'll do stuff. And he's how can I put it? He'll accept like 4 hours of whatever, and then he'll get one thing and he'll go, that's great. But that's what makes him amazing. You know, he's an amazing guy. He's such an inspiration. And every time I see him, you know, he just blows me away. Yeah. He's 83, coming up 84, and he's just on a different level. Yeah.
I'd love to talk to him. I'd love to.
Yeah. I mean, he's not really coming to Britain now, the UK now.
Where's he based?
He's based in LA.
Well, assuming that we all survive this pandemic, I'm going to California in the summer. So
if you're allowed in, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think. I mean, you can't say everybody should meet him once, but I think just being in his...
I've heard so much about him.
You know, he's such a great man. He really... I mean, everybody's unique. You're unique. I'm unique. Everybody's unique. And at the same time, you know, he really is an amazing individual. And I've never met anybody like him who encompasses what a true martial art warrior is. You know, I mean, there's I think, you know, like he has that in him, you know, down to a T, you know, but a lot of people don't see it because he's so nice, you know, he's such a lovely man, he's such a humble man. I've seen people show him things that he already knows and he goes, yeah, that's really good, well done, thank you, yeah, thank you very much. I've never seen him, and with genuine humility, you know, not false humility, not kind of pretending or a little bit, and he just continues to amaze me. And every time I see him, I saw him in November and we went out for a meal and, after the classes, and it's just great. You know, I would go there just have a meal with him, go to LA, just have breakfast with him, and then fly back.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, I would honestly do that. Yeah, honestly, I would just go and fly and have breakfast with him and just say, how you doing, Guru? And he's just to be in his presence. And I always feel like a good person for about 5 days. Yeah. And then the bad Rick goes away. Go, yeah, I've been in the presence of the Guru. And then it sort of comes back. But yeah, he's an amazing man. I think if you're into martial arts, and you enjoy martial arts, it'd be a real experience to go and see him. Yeah.
I have to now.
I think you should. I think absolutely, yeah.
I will do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
See if I can get over there in the summer. I actually remember, now we're talking back about Dan, I remember how we got off at the topic. He was talking about the 5 things that he taught you, and the first one was strengthen your legs, I think. Right?
Yeah.
That's how we got on.
No, he said strengthen your legs and flexibility.
Yeah,
he
it was the two main things.
Two things. And he was basically talking about just keeping has a big thing about keeping in shape. I mean, he exercises constantly himself, you know, and he really, you know, he really emphasizes that. I remember I went from 6 a.m, literally, till he dropped me off at 11 at night. He picked me up at 6 a.m. to 11 at night, and he was doing privates. And I think I forget exactly what the privates were, but it was privates till about 12, and we'd have breakfast, we'd have lunch, and then he taught for 5 hours at night. Then I went back to his house. My car was at his house, and then he dropped me off. And then I picked up my car and went back to hotel. I was exhausted. I mean, I was done. And then I had to meet him at 6 the next morning. So I'm done. I mean, I'm out of it. And then I meet him at 6 the next morning. I go, so what did you do last night, Guru? He went, you know what, Rick? He said, I realized I hadn't got my cardio on last night, yesterday. So I did 45 minutes on the bike. And I'm thinking, I went home. I went back to the hotel. I couldn't get any real food. And I ate some crappy food and went, man, and crashed out on the, and he's doing 45 minutes on the bike. And I thought, well, that's the difference. That's why he is who he is. And that's the difference for him. So he's really big into conditioning in terms of just keeping yourself in the best condition that you can do. But the way he says it sometimes, like the way he teaches is different from like you, or I might say to a student, listen, you need to train jiu-jitsu 4 or 5 times a week. If you're going to compete, get your running in, get your strength and conditioning in, tailor it to this, do that, maybe sharpen it up, getting closer to a tournament. Maybe the last week you relax, you don't get injured. But he kind of gives advice in a different way. He kept saying to me, he was saying all the time he said kettlebells. He goes, if I could go back to college, I would be getting all my college students to be doing kettlebells. I go, fine. Now, he's saying this for about a year. Now, it keeps going on about it. He says it at seminars. He says it here. He says it to me personally during meals. Go, okay, Guru. And then one day we're in the LA and we're in the car. And he goes, you know, Rick, if I could go back to college, if I was teaching at college, I would get my guys to do kettlebells. I went, Guru, do you want me to do kettlebells? He went, yeah. He goes, I've been telling you that for a year. And I went, really? Because but he doesn't tell you like...
He gives you a little clue.
He gives you a clue. And it's the same where...
Or a lot of clues and stuff.
It's the same where, music is really integrated into martial art culture. You know, if you do capoeira, you have to learn an instrument, you know, so it's really important. You can kind of learn that, you know. If you do African martial arts, the drumming is very important. So he takes me to his drumming lesson, you know, so he's learning drums because of that.
He's learning drums at the moment?
He's learning drums, yeah.
So what style of drums or
he does all sorts of drumming, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he does all sorts of drumming. Yeah, they have some really nice, good drummers at the academy. They have a guy called Michael Dubin, who's a really super nice guy, good talented martial artist as well. He's a great drummer.
Really?
Yeah. And then they have another guy. It's really funny, this guy, because he says he was drumming one night and I thought, oh, he's actually pretty good, this guy, you know, he's a good guy. And so I spoke to him after and I said, you know, I said, I like your drum. And he goes, oh, thanks very much. I said, have you ever played in a band? Have you played for anybody? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, I played for Elvis. That's Alex Acuna. And I went, and Weather Report, you know, with your big jazz band. I went, okay, so you have played, yeah? Super nice guy. So they have a lot of really good drummers at the academy. So Guru Dan took me to a guy who was playing the congas, you know, kind of doing this. And I'm terrible. I mean, I'm absolutely, I've got no rhythm whatsoever. But he tries to expose his students to different things that he thinks will help them, you know. So he's trying to help me to understand rhythm, you know. He says, because you need the rhythm, Rick, to break up the rhythm, you know. So you need to have that there. So once you understand this, it'll start to go through your body. It's going to help your cells, you know. It gives you life.
Yeah.
So when you're doing all this stuff, it gives you life. It makes you feel vibrant. It makes you feel alive. So when you're training, you're more open to it. You're more there. Bruce Lee spoke a lot about broken rhythm and training and different rhythms. So that's things like that he exposes you to. I mean, it's taken me to so many places where it took me to gyrotonics, which is kind of like this thing. You get this machine that's kind of like all over the place. The lady's taking you about different ways to use your muscles and use your core, how to stand straight, how to push your chest out, how to engage, things like that. So he's really on the cutting edge of stuff like that, where he's always trying different things and he's always introducing his students to it. And that's the great thing about him, that he'll be open-minded enough to kind of put that in the way for, put that in front of you and give you the opportunity to take it. If you don't want to take it, he goes, I'm not going to push, but I'm just going to say, I think this is what you probably need here, you know. And that's what's so great about having him as an instructor. It's amazing. I mean, it's one of the greatest gifts of my life has been his student. And it doesn't matter if I'm a full instructor or what level instructor I am with him. Just being his student is enough for me. I'm very incredibly privileged to be under him. And I think as an instructor, he gives me inspiration about the way that I teach. You know, I can't be him. I mean, I'm not a million to his level, but the way he teaches and the way he gives can help me hopefully give to my students and help my students out too.
Yeah. And is it through those JKD connections that you found your way into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Not really, because Sean had really instilled the grappling aspect in me. You know how most fights happen. This is 1975, long before the Gracies.
I'm gonna quickly turn your phone on silent because and guarantee you, and it's going to be hilarious. People are going to listen to this podcast and they're going to be positive that their phones that they're getting messages through their phone.
My girlfriend's I think. Okay. Can I
of course.
Just open it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so we're back. So we're talking about how you got into. Well, you're saying that you were already kind of doing grappling with Sean. How did you find your way? Because we started the podcast and you're in a room with 4 Gracies training Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So how did you get from JKD into the world of Jiu-Jitsu?
Well, Sean had really taught me the how functional groundwork was. Yeah, Well, in the beginning, that was always the main thing for us, was taking it to the ground, finishing them on the ground.
And this was using judo, niwaza techniques.
Judo, niwaza, and ground and pound as well. So he was really big on ground and pound. And as I say, that's why when it came out later on, it wasn't that big a shock to me. Again, it was more technically involved, but it wasn't something that was a big shock to me. I thought, well, that's what we do normally. And his idea was in the street to throw them as hard as possible on concrete, and then finish them on the ground, break their arms, strangle them unconscious, punch them unconscious, whatever it took.
Yeah.
So that was always there. So I'd gone to judo from 86 to 89, something like that. And then I joined the Edinburgh Club in 1990. The Edinburgh Club, really renowned for strong judo. I mean, the Budokai was, I think, the first in Britain, and then the Edinburgh Club came closely. Not even closely after, but came after that. Yeah. So very renowned, and they always had some really fantastic players there. A lot of the British squad were there. So the judo background was always very, very strong. And I trained with a lot of those guys in Niwaza. So I'd been training with Mark Preston. I began getting privates from Mark Preston, and he was like a British internationalist, great Niwaza player. I mean, superb Niwaza player, great teacher as well. So he taught me like 4 times a week for about 4 years. And I was working the doors to pay for those lessons. So I'd go in the doors, get the money, pay Mark, go and get the lessons, come back, train it, and so forth. So the judo was always a strong part of what I did. And at the same time, I'd read about the Gracies Jiu-Jitsu, so I really wanted to know what they were teaching.
This is pre-UFC, though. Of course,
this is pre-UFC. Yeah, this is 89.
So for those who don't know, we've spoken about it loads of times on this podcast already. But when the Gracies first moved to America, their way of advertising was to take out ads in newspapers saying basically, if you want your arms broken, you want to be choked unconscious, then come fight us. But the whole thing, the challenge matches, if you win, you get 10 grand. I think it was.
Yes, that's right.
So is that how you started to hear through the challenge matches?
Yeah, because they had an advert, they had an advert for, I think, a big seminar they were all doing. And again, at that time, nobody really knew who they were. Yeah. So it was all the brothers there. You would see as Horian, Hoyler, Rickson, Hoyce. I think Crolin might have been there, Helion would have been there, all those guys, Henzo,
Teaching one seminar.
I'm sorry?
Teaching one seminar.
Wow. Yeah, you've seen them all there, and they were all like Elio, would be there. So I saw an advert, but then it was like, man, where are these guys, And then when I went to the States, I went to Smoky Mountain Camp, which is where I first met Erik Paulson. And then I went to LA. And when I went to LA, there's a guy called Fred Brown who worked for the FBI. He was taking privates. So I'd go and see, and that's where I went to see Hoyce, got my first private of Hoyce. And went, okay. But if I'm going to be totally frank, they were teaching some really simple stuff. And I mean, it was like really slow, really simple. And back home, I was getting taught world-class judo. Neil Adams turnover, Neil Adams roll, Kashiwazaki roll, Davonikov turn, all of these really great judo moves from world-class players. And of course, as we know, it's much more limited. The judo groundwork's much more limited than the jiu-jitsu groundwork. By that time, they were showing, okay, pop-up armbar from the guard here. And again, I look back now and it's still functional, it's still really good. But what the judo guys were saying is, bam, okay, Tai Toshi, boom, Adams roll, boom, run them over, boom, there you go. Keep the Niwaza tight, go. Everything was explosive, everything was really physical, really hard and technical as well. And even now, anything from the turtle, almost anything from the turtle, I use judo groundwork because that's where they're really super efficient. Guys
Turnovers.
Guys like Billy Kuzak, was a fantastic player. I mean, Billy went to Brazil after 2 practices. He rolled with one guy, rolled with another to give him a brown belt.
In Gracie Jiu-Jitsu?
In Jiu-Jitsu. Not Gracie, but in Jiu-Jitsu. He went to Sao Paulo. The instructor, I forget the guy's name, but he gave him a brown belt. He said, I would give you a black belt, but I haven't known you long enough. So he was a black belt already. I mean, and just through judo groundwork, I mean, he would take on, there's a couple of jiu-jitsu black belts he rolled with, he steamrolled. Yeah. So he was, really, really great Niwaza player. In fact, Billy fought Fabricio Verdum in the European Championships in 2001. and he fought him in the final. And Verdun was a purple belt then, but Billy hung with him then. And Billy was way past his competitive career, so he just thought I'd give it a try, you know. Yeah. So Billy's Niwaza was already really, really high level. And when I rolled with Billy, it was like rolling with a jiu-jitsu guy. He'd play guard, you know.
Really?
Yeah. These guys.
He played guard?
Play guard. Yeah.
Where would he learn to play guard?
He learned, well, there's a couple of
because of course in judo, playing off your back is going to be
actually in Japan it's not so much. You know, I mean, it's not. If you look, if you look at Isao Okano's book in Vital Judo, it's got two aspects. One's Tachiwaza, one's Niwaza.
Yeah.
If you look, it's from 1976. You look in that book, they're doing X guard. They're doing single leg X.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing all that. It's not as developed as it is now. But the concept was there. The idea was 100% there. So Billy had trained with Isao Okano, had trained with Kashiwazaki, had trained with all these guys. There's a guy that came here, he's a Russian guy, defected. I forget his name, but he was really well known for his arm bars. Billy's got a killer arm bar. I mean, he'd rip your shoulder out. You know? I mean, really incredible arm bar. So again, not as developed in terms of the sphere of what they're doing in jiu-jitsu, but what he did and what he does, really solid. I mean, really solid. Got one turnover from the guard that he does that's almost unstoppable. The only way he used to do it on me, he did it to me for about 3 months, this turnover. He pops the arm in and takes you over from the guard. And I said, will you show me? He went, no. I said, seriously? Because he goes, no, I'm not going to show you. So for 3 months, I'm practicing 3 or 4 times a week with him, and he keeps doing this turnover on me.
Do you keep on putting yourself in the same position, trying to study how he's doing it?
I'll be honest with you, I couldn't work out how he did it.
Really?
I actually couldn't work out how he did it. And I said, will you show me? He went, no. And you know, when you have a roll and somebody catches you, you go, how do you show me? How do you do that? And he show you.
Yeah.
He didn't show me for 3 months. And then eventually he showed me, and I went, and it was something really simple. And I went, and then he tried it again, never caught me again.
Oh, nice. That's why I didn't want to show you.
So it was really funny. So anyway, that's kind of where the groundwork really stemmed from. And then when I heard about the Gracies, I thought, we'll go and see them. When I went to see Hoyce, kind of shortcut the story, and they weren't really showing an awful lot. And then
so when you say that, because you just mentioned it before, that you I think you're in a unique position because you were training sort of through your training with Sean, you were already doing groundwork, and so many people when they watched UFC 1, they were blown away by, oh my God, everything we know is it's been a lie, and groundwork is so effective, and then you are going there, well, of course it's effective. I've known it was effective since I was 14 or however old it was when you started. And then you've been training with, obviously you have, it seems like the more old school guys do have more emphasis on the Niwaza. I know that the rules have changed in judo, so there's less and less Niwaza these days. And I think obviously if you go back even further, like you said, to the really old texts from Japan, there's even more Niwaza and even guard play. So you go and have this private with the Gracies, and they're showing basic techniques. Are you almost underwhelmed by it because you've actually become, you expect so many people, they go and they do a very basic class with the Gracies and it blows their mind, but you've already done all of this stuff. How was that?
I didn't really understand it, to be honest. I didn't understand it. First of all, I kind of went in with the wrong attitude, if I'm being honest, because I went in thinking, I'm a judo guy who's going to prove that judo is effective, because they were saying, oh, judo's rubbish, blah, 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 at the time, right? At the time. And that was kind of the feeling I got. So when I trained with the Hoyce, I remember Hoyce said, the guy I was with, he said, okay, this guy's done, I'd forget, 6 months of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. You've done so many years of judo. Okay, let's see you roll.
Okay.
So I practice and I do okay, so fine. And then Hoyce goes, okay, I'll roll with you now.
Yeah.
So I roll with Hoyce, and obviously he beats me, so I go, fine, okay. And then it still didn't make me feel like, okay, this is something I really want to do, but I thought it's interesting. But the next year or the year after, I forget, I went with Rickson. Rickson's different. Rickson was just, there was something different about Rickson, right? So I go with Rickson and I think, I'd like to train with this guy. But at the same time, I trained with Horian too, because Paul was taking...
You roll with him?
Yeah, I didn't roll with Horian, no.
But you roll with Hoyce and you roll with Hickson?
Yes.
That's such a unique perspective, because there's so few people who have rolled, especially back, we're talking about basically their primes.
Yeah.
They were probably in their maybe 20s, 30s.
Hoist would have been 20s. Hickson was 30.
So these guys are in their prime, and you've rolled with both of them.
Yeah.
Now, you've come from, you don't know that much about jiu-jitsu, even though you've done some groundwork. What are the differences between rolling with Hoist and rolling with Rickson?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Know why? Because Rickson's at such a great level, he's babying you. It's like if you took a 5-year-old right now and you started to play with a 5-year-old and you said, well, how good is he? They couldn't tell how good you are, because you're babying them. And I kind of feel the same with Rickson, because Rickson was being nice to me, letting me get position, do this, do that. And you're not pushing him. His needle isn't moving really,
Yeah.
So it's really different. I'd love to roll with Rickson now, not because I think I would do any better. He would still, but just
you feel like now you're in a position that you
because
can
I never had the education. I never really understood, and I never really understood how the levels that he could go to. It's like if you're rolling with one of your students who's a white belt, and you go, how good's Dan? Well, they don't know, because they're not pushing you. So it was but I knew Rickson was different. I knew Rickson had something. He was different. He was a different animal, because I'd already met, as I say, I'd been with Paul Vunak, and Horian had taken Paul for a class, which was really nice class, but they weren't really showing a lot. And then what happened was, just to fast forward it, when I went back to see Rickson, but Rickson wasn't really there. So by this time, people were talking about the Machados.
Yes.
So I went down to the Machados down Manhattan Beach, went down there, met Hegan. So when I met Hegan, I rolled with Hegan, and Hegan's a monster. I mean, Hegan's really underrated. I mean, it's a shame now people see a lot of stuff about him, but he's an absolute beast.
Yeah.
I mean, an absolute beast. And when I was rolling with Hegan, he was still in really good shape. And I remember gripping up with him and going, my word, it just feels like he's just thick. Thick. And he was amazing. I mean, by that time, my groundwork had got a little bit better, so I could sort of judge a little bit. And I was rolling with some of their guys, so I could sort of tell what the difference was, or begin to tell what the difference was. But Hegan was different level, and all the Machados I thought were fantastic. I mean, I've rolled with John, who I think is great, totally underrated. I think John's very underrated.
Machados as a general, in general, are underrated. People don't realize, of course, they were related to, literally related to the Gracie family, cousins of the Gracie family, and they have a huge lineage. And I think the effect that they've had on the sport in general is really has had a massive impact, and maybe don't get spoken about quite as much as they should do.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think 100%. Yeah, I mean, someone like John, really knowledgeable, super nice, but he took a silver in the world's adult black belt. So I mean, you're going to have to be really good level to get that. I mean, superb level. Jean-Jacques, of course, is more famous. I rolled with Jean-Jacques. Great, had a couple of great rolls with him. Really nice rolls. Hegan, he's just in his prime, just amazing, and still super nice. He can actually give me my blue belt.
Really?
Yeah, he can give me my blue belt. Yeah, and so that was really great. And he's always been super nice. So I was training with them because Rickson was going back to Brazil. But Rickson was kind of less available, and he was, and then later on. I met Mauricio, but 99 actually, 99, met Mauricio and got Mauricio up here to teach. And I just clicked with Mauricio.
How did you meet Mauricio?
I got told by a friend of mine, Rob Locke in Birmingham, had been training with Mauricio. I'd said, this guy's arrived, 5th degree black belt he's come from Japan. He's now teaching in the custom factory in Birmingham. So I said, okay. I said, I'd like to come for a seminar. So I got him up. And the first thing we did was went to the Edinburgh Club and we had a roll. For about 40 minutes,
How was that?
Yeah, it was the most, do you know what? I'll be honest with you, it was the most boring role ever.
Really?
Because I wanted to prove to Mauricio how good judo was. I was still in that kind of phase and how good I was. Yeah. So Mauricio put me in his guard.
And you kind of just stiffened up.
Mauricio, eventually catches me. But it was like kind of the most boring role for him ever, And he goes, let's loosen up a little bit. So we loosened up and it was much better. So it was great.
Of course, Mauricio known for his horrible top game.
Yeah. You just don't want to let him get knee and belly. anything to avoid the mount and knee and belly. Yeah. It's quite hard to avoid, but he's amazing. So, but the thing about Mauricio was, I felt really connected to Mauricio when I met him, and I really liked his honesty. I loved him. He was great. And Rickson had kind of asked me to represent him at one point, you know, and this is about 96.
So that would be, when you say represent, you mean teach, open,
to sort of become part of an association. Okay. I had an association at that time, you know.
Were you teaching? Did you own a gym at that point?
No, I had a gym, like a kickboxing Cali gym, and I was doing some groundwork. I didn't really know what to call it, Niwaza. I think we're calling it Niwaza at the time, you know, and Rickson seemed to like me, you know, and we got on quite well. But I mean, I love Rickson. Rickson's been super nice to me, always, you know, but it didn't work out. And then when I met Mauricio, even though Mauricio wasn't as big a name, nobody really knew Mauricio when he came here, Mauricio Gomez, you know, and Roger was obviously still a kid. He was 16, 17. So Mauricio let me, you know, Mauricio, I was a blue belt under Higan, and then I hadn't seen Higan for about 3 years. So I was in Brazil. I'd been to Brazil, I think 3 times, and I was sitting with Mauricio in Ipanema, and we were at a cafe, and I said to him, listen, I haven't seen Higan for about 3 years. I'd like to go. Now, he'd facilitated everything in Brazil for me, got me a place to stay, all the rest, all my training. And people, you know, sounds arrogant, people are going, why are you a blue belt?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on? You know, because, you know, and so I said to Mauricio, I said, listen, Mestre, I'll go as a white belt under you. I'll take the blue belt off. I'll go as a white belt. I'll start again under you, and you can grade me to whatever you want. He goes, Rick, I've wanted you to say that for a long time. He goes, I didn't want to step on Higan's toes, but here's a purple belt. They gave me a purple belt right away.
Yeah.
And then I got my brown the next year, and I got my black just after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was how it kind of came to be with Mauricio. And I've always felt comfortable with Mauricio. I've always felt, when I say comfortable, I mean just that we have a really good relationship. I really respect Mauricio. Obviously, I respect his jiu-jitsu. It's off the chart. He's the best jiu-jitsu teacher I've ever met.
Yeah.
And he's an incredible person. And I just love spending time with him. You know, he's always been great
he's
with
awesome,
me. Yeah, he is.
He is, yeah.
And he's such a really authentic person, you know, and what you see is what you get. And I'm privileged to be a student, you know. I was privileged to get my black belt under him and my first degree, second, third, and fourth degrees. So I'm really happy to be, you know, for him to still accept me as a student, you know. So it's just wonderful, yeah. So yeah, and so that's kind of shortened version of how everything kind of unfolded, you know, there, you know. And of course, I trained with a lot of other people too, you know. Zetashira has been fantastic, you know, really nice. Our guys go down to train at his gym. And
still with the same gym in Leblon?
And yeah.
I went to there when I went.
Yeah. So it's still got the same place. So like my guys go and train there when they go down to Brazil, when they go down to Rio. I go and train there as well. So he's always been super nice to us too. So it's nice to have that kind of relationship there. And as I say, with Mauricio, he's just been really, really great. He comes up here twice a year or so. I'll go down and see him, and I want to keep that association with him. Yeah.
Unbelievably, because we've barely started to talk about jiu-jitsu. I haven't talked to you about kickboxing. I wanted to talk to you about Carly, because I think you did proper full contact stick fighting, right?
I have done, but not in competition. Yeah,
okay.
I have done, yeah.
And then, of course, you said that you've been to Brazil 25 times and talk about everything, you getting through to your black belt, you opening a gym, you've run this gym for what, 20-something years?
Yeah, something like that.
But we've run out of time. And you have a class to teach right now. I say this to a lot of my to a lot of my guests that I'd love to do another episode, but in this case, I actually mean it. We actually need to do, not because I want to continue the episode, but you know, to continue the story, but we actually haven't even finished one episode. So this isn't even, this is like a part half.
It's a privilege, yeah. Thanks so much.
Like an absolute, a real privilege and an honor to talk to you. I really enjoyed it a lot. I'm gutted that we have to finish so soon, but I knew what I was getting myself into. But whether it's when I come back up here or if you're ever in London, please let me know, because people are they're going to be tormented by having this amazing 1.5 hours, and just as we start to get into it, no, absolutely not. Just as we start to get into it, suddenly it's all over. So I can only apologize. It's just the way that the timing went, because I managed to thankfully catch Rick in between teaching 2 classes. But yeah, I'd love to continue this and carry on soon. But I just want to say thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it.
Cheers, buddy. And I'll genuinely, we'll make sure we do a second part.
I hope so. I really enjoyed it.
We haven't even started yet.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
And that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I had an absolute blast recording it, and I'm really going to try my hardest to try and get a second part in there with Rick so we can actually, I don't know, talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a little bit. If you want to find out more about Rick, then you can check out his website, which is rick-young.co.uk. I'm not sure whether he's on Instagram, or if he's on Instagram, how much he uses it. But find him and go train at his academy. If you're ever in Scotland, his academy is in Edinburgh. It's a really nice place. And it is Rick Young's Black Belt Academy. As always, if you want to contact the podcast, then you can email me at podcast@raspberryape.com. You can find me on Instagram mainly, but if you really love Twitter, then I will get a message if you send it on Twitter. But both my Instagram and my Twitter handles are at raspberry_ape. You can find this podcast and many other podcasts and a few other things on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/raspberryape. I think that's about it. Yeah. Take it easy, guys, and I will catch you next time.